Hello again. Have a little bit of early hay fever at the moment, so that might impair me a little bit on this video. We recently had a meeting with Deirdre Ryan of a social worker at Surrey Tyneside Council, and it was recorded. It lasted for about an hour, and it's actually the content of it is very, very significant. And I'm going to go through some of that. I'm not able to publish it in its entirety yet because I work with people who I think understand the significance of it and will want to see it distributed as part of a wider package of evidence, probably initially abroad, given the extraordinary racism that I've discussed throughout this series of videos. Now, interestingly, you may recall that Northumbria Police were instituted to use police state terror against me and also my wife, but principally me, as I've sought to expose corruption in the family courts, in particular abuse of office of Rachel Hudson, a judge who presided over our case. And we've also spoken to many other people who feel that they've been very, very badly treated by Hudson, who've essentially been terrorized into silence, and they need to have their voice as well. Of course, this is in addition to, I've described this dreadful business model where, children are being sort of pushed through the family courts with hardly any accountability, long-term care orders issued with very little intention to ever reconcile families, and the child gets manufactured into a cash generative asset and traded with private equity owned agencies. And we've done a lot of work. It's still a lot more to come of how this feeds into the financial sector. There's already savers and investors exposed to this trade, mainly via institutional avenues. And there's also plans to broaden it out so it potentially could make its way into defined contribution pension schemes with the aid of the PISA trading platform that the FCA talk about quite a lot. And of course, this is in addition to work where I've identified how as a whistleblower in the WealthTech case, the corrosive conflict of interest between the regulator as a prosecutor and a regulator leads to very, very bad outcomes to the victims of financial scandals. And I myself, as part of the coordinated coercion of received threats in various guises right the way across that spectrum, from the FCA to Tyneside Council to the police state terror, Rachel Hudson and Northumbria Police, and so on. Actually, as a result of this meeting, I've issued further correspondence to Northumbria Police. I copied in parties to the WealthTech case. The email explains why that is. I'm going to post that as a separate post, not in the description, because it's quite long, so you'll see it after this video. So back to the meeting with Ryan. Obviously, we addressed this issue of the unsigned falsified statement, what the local authority called ABE, Achieving Best Evidence, which was used to support our younger daughter being taken from us and subject to this long-term care order and traded away. So Ryan admits that the statement should have been signed. I think that's self-explanatory, because in my mind it voids a case if you show that the evidence was not valid. Remember, the key witness, our older daughter, claimed to have never seen it in a meeting of her instigation. So she admits that it should have been signed, and she can't recall or another example of an unsigned statement being submitted and accepted by a judge. So clearly A statement, for instance, was sent to me, a copy of it by Paul Mahan, Tyneside Council. We've also had correspondence with Jane Poulter of Tyneside. So they all knew that the statement was submitted unsigned, which was, in my mind, a gross act of professional misconduct. We need to return to that via respective professional bodies in due course. And they, in particular, Poulter's tried to pass it off and say, well, the judge accepted it. So she's tried to lay off risks to the judge. But all parties, all legal professionals, including Rachel Hudson as a judge, knew this was not acceptable practice. Accepting, making life-changing decisions that have had catastrophic consequences, particularly for our younger daughter, and ourselves. But we're adults, but we must always consider a younger daughter first. On the basis of falsified, unsigned evidence. Now, in terms of the falsification, on the channel that I run the case videos on, I'm taking you through bit by bit of how that statement was falsified. Eventually, Ryan acknowledged that the Polish heritage of our younger daughter was handled poorly at outset. Remember, I've explained that what happens to ease this process, and this is something we've seen nationally on an endemic scale. Social workers and local authorities work to destroy the emotional attachment between child and parent to try to, lubricate this evil trade. And, part of that in our case was younger daughter who's a Polish citizen, of Polish heritage. So Ryan acknowledged that this is all recorded, by the way, was handled poorly at outset. Remember, I posted evidence of the contracts of expectations 3 weeks after she was taken. The first time we were able to see her, we were blackmailed into speaking English only, which is a clear violation of respective human rights and an illegal act. So she tried to justify it by saying, my wife is fluent in English, but that is a problem, isn't it? So let's think about this now. She is competent in English, but a key part of our younger daughter was her Polish heritage. So regardless of whether wife is fluent or proficient in English is not relevant in this sense, because there was 3 weeks. The meeting was at one of their filthy contact centres, and usually smelling heavily of cigarettes and such. And they had time to deploy engage an interpreter, for instance. So right before Christmas, mother could, more relevant for mother, could exchange greetings in Polish, and so on. But they were just not considered. It was just stamped out. And you consider say a family with a part Pakistani heritage. Would you say to them, Urdu's banned? Let's say a family with Jewish roots, one side or the other. Would you say that you could speak English, so you don't need to converse in Hebrew? Another example, Yiddish, or so on. No, you wouldn't, or I would hope they wouldn't. Each would be disgraceful conduct. And this is the depravity of this situation, where you've got people who are so poorly appraised and so low ability, but sufficiently ignorant to be able to do this awful footwork and just destroy any emotional attachment there is between parent and child. So what Ryan went on to say is younger daughter does not want to speak Polish, but now, so we're over 4 years into this now, and what she doesn't understand is if you something like that needs to be nurtured and protected, the heritage. If you stamp all over it from an early stage, and other examples included, and Ryan also acknowledged that these were poorly handled, intimidation of Polish interpreters. A lady called Alison McAlpine in a contact centre shouting over the use of Polish, even though an interpreter was present and authorised to be there. All this did immense damage to the confidence of our younger daughter, and she used to whisper to us, and particularly her mother, and say, "I'm not sure I should speak Polish." She was scared, frightened, intimidated. So it's like a fire. It's like stamping it out and then saying it's not a light anymore. Yeah, that is the sheer ignorance and depravity of this horrendous situation. That's why I said both Rachel Hudson and South Tyneside Council should already be under investigation. Keir Starmer has told us, which we all doubt, of course, that nobody is above the law. So why can I be taken away from my house in handcuffs, unable to put on my own shoes, having devices taken away on false pretexts that I use a time machine to go back and damage someone's car, Rachel Hudson's car, and yet Rachel Hudson and South Tyneside Council aren't under investigation. So it's saying that they are above the law, and it's admitting that we have this two-tier arbitrary legal system. So let's move on. So we asked Ryan why younger daughter was not listened to when she said she wanted to return home 6 months after being taken. And then, so it said she was taken in December 2021, and up until almost the end of May 2022, she expressed a desire to return home. This contradicted with accounts from social worker Dominic Grant that she told that she didn't, but we've dismantled those, and I've got a lot of work coming up dismantling Donna Grant's work to continue that. And then what apparently happened is, miraculously, just before the final hearing, she said she wanted to stay where she was. I said, well, why wasn't she listened to after 6 months? Why do you need to keep pressurising her? You obviously know, because of the model that I've described. So Ryan says that, children change their minds and so on and so forth, which can be true, but she then went on to admit that she hadn't asked her about her feelings of returning home for over 3 years now. So you're playing both sides, which is Keir Starmer does this and so on and so forth. He's done it on prejudice, hasn't he? He uses prejudice. So for the instance of the mysterious instance of the Ukrainian male models, which we know nothing about, prejudice. But then the Southport rioters, who obviously I don't condone their behaviour, were condemned as far-right thugs, even though Starmer can't identify what he means by far-right, before they'd even seen a courtroom. And he made his expectations very clear of what he expected the courts to do, and they duly obliged. So you can see the distortion. That's why I focus so much on narrative. We then asked her to consider the alarming trend about our older daughter making allegations against people and institutions, the latest being the former foster carer, which up until recently our younger daughter remained with, even though older daughter had taken the opportunity to leave after making a series of grievances and expressing a series of grievances and allegations. So this has led to younger daughter being taken away and now being stowed at a temporary carer in Durham. We're not told the details, of course, because they're trying to shut down what happened. They're desperately trying to hide this gross incompetence and mismanagement of our daughter's welfare, not to mention the cultural genocide and falsified statements and so on. So think about this. So apparently what has happened is a birthday meal that older daughter invited younger daughter with, and she decided to tell her why she left. So made, according to Ryan, new allegations. But this is odd, isn't it? Because she'd left that placement over a year ago. so younger daughter remained there. So why, if it was so serious, would you allow, you cared about your younger sister so much, why you'd expose her to that if it was such a serious issue? Why you would just use it at a time of your own choosing to effectively wreck a placement? It shows the unstable and malicious nature sometimes of older daughters' behaviour. And I don't say this out of spite; it's fact. There's a trend there, and we've documented this. And this is a person who claims to have never seen the statement, which was crafted out of some notes that she'd submitted to Laura Peel, and Laura Peel had crafted this statement that had been unsigned, and I've shown you why it's been unsigned, because it was falsified. But even if she were to have signed this statement, which she didn't, and claims to have never seen, this is a person that's gone on to make complaints about a social worker, Deirdre Ryan, believe it or not. She's gone her previous schools, and she had issues even in her last school with disputes with girls. She has gone and made complaints about ours. She made complaints about grandparents, and there's a whole line of malicious allegations that have never really been substantiated. At a previous school, which is the current school of our younger daughter, she accused the school of harbouring homophobia. That I have issues with the school, but don't even believe that. So you can see an alarming trend, and she's now putting herself forward to be a carer along with housemates, which shows you again the depravity of this awful situation. Because in this particular meeting, she encouraged younger daughter to stay out beyond the agreed time by an hour, according to Deirdre Ryan. It's all documented and recorded, and turn her phone off. So she encouraged younger daughter to defy her, at the time, foster carer, because he was clearly angling on creating trouble for her previous carer. Now, this comes after another incident where she met our younger daughter. Her younger daughter was left distressed because she turned up, well, she met her in the company of her boyfriend, and they discussed very inappropriate things during the meeting, and it distressed our younger daughter. We brought that up with Ryan. I said, oh yes, we've imposed restrictions on that, but she hasn't, because in essence, in the meeting, that she passed on this information that led to her wanting to leave her placement. Younger daughter, this is older daughter to younger daughter, was unmonitored. So how did she know these things are not happening? You listen to it and they just unravel the lies and deception, and it's extraordinary. But they have the unaccountability to be able to, and the arrogance to be able to do it. And this is what we've got to change. We have to dismantle this, because there are thousands of children, we believe, as we look further into this, that have been subject to this horrendous system and ripped from their parents. And lives are being destroyed. Lives have been taken and lost as well. And that's something we'll have to go into further down the line. So that's it for now. It's quite a long one, but do take a look at the email that I've submitted to Northumbria Police Legal, because it goes through the coordinated coercion, why this is just police state terror, effectively the use of public money to shut down research into staggering corruption. Take care. Bye.